live, and holy mackerel. It's like well into November now. Can you believe this?
Yeah.
I can't. It's wild to me. All right. Well, hello, everybody. Tracy and Tom together at last again. Tracy's been on the road a lot and hasn't been here to participate live.
Are you complaining?
No, I'm feeling like it's a treat.
Oh, thank you. You know, we did a podcast interview yesterday, and that was like, I felt like that was so much fun. We haven't done an interview with us before in quite some time.
Long time. We used to do them all the time, but yeah, it was fun.
Well, this is us being interviewed by somebody else, so it was even a little bit more. We do those very rarely. One of us will take
usually
on an interview.
One or the other will be interviewed. I agree, but that was fun to do it together. Plus, it was a co-hosted show.
Yeah,
there was four of us. That was
that was really unusual, right? Having four of us.
Well, and we're all podcasters, so all the audio was really good quality.
Oh, it was really great quality. Well, so yeah, I mean, Tiffany and David and ran a local event here too. So like so we got to go to a local event. It's called the Golden State Meetup. Or something like that, or
podcast meetup. Yeah.
Podcast
Golden
meetup.
State, yeah.
Golden State, for California. And we had a lot of fun doing a little live event on Saturday evening. We had some dinner with some great podcasters and got to see Chris Kermitzos from Podfest. He was in town.
Well, yeah, no, it was nice to see him and other people. So definitely that was a lot of fun. We haven't done that enough. And it was easy for us because this time it was literally 15 minutes from home for us. So that was easy.
It was really easy.
But we are going to continue to participate in that group, and they're going to be having these meetups everywhere from LA down to San Diego. So Southern California, at least for now. So we'll have to drive longer distance for some of these things. But got to meet a lot of good people and reconnect. And so we'll look forward to continuing to be a part of it. We actually sponsored the local event so that, there was.
I didn't realize we were paying for dinner. That sounded like fun.
Yeah. So. No, it was good. It was good.
Yeah.
So we'll continue to participate with that group.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So let's see. Today we're going to talk about an important topic, which admittedly, for those of you watching that are some of our done for you customers for production, we take care of this for you. So,
but I think it's good for us to go over why we do it and why they're configured the way that they are.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So this is why that's a good reference point in case you have questions.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about podcast landing pages and sort of the do's and the don'ts and why they're important. And why don't I sort of lead in, Tracy, and then you can sort of set up what we're talking about? Does that sound good?
Hold on, let me get.
Oh, all right. I'll do the same.
Quick sip. My throat is a little sore this morning. I'm not getting sick. It's just the air is so dry here.
This is what we love about the Southwest, and then we have to deal with about the Southwest, right? Because it can be dry. Not quite as dry as being at 10,000 feet in Colorado. We'll be doing next week. Yeah,
this windy day is not helping for sure.
Yeah, we definitely the winds have picked up. The planes were taking off toward the mountains instead of toward the water today. I noticed.
I didn't see that. You were out that way.
Around. I was driving, quite a ways and under the flight path, and the planes usually that go this way, we're going that way. Anyway.
Okay, well, let's get started so that we can open up to some questions.
All right. Hey everyone, thanks for listening to oh my gosh, I did it. I said I started WTF.
Okay, everyone.
This is the problem when you have multiple podcasts. Which podcast are we
usually
recording?
It's me who does it because I record more than you.
I know, I blew it. All right, well, fortunately, we have an editing team and they'll just cut that out. And for those of you watching live,
let's just start all over.
I amused you. All right, here we go. Welcome to Feed Your Brand. I'm Tom Hazard, along with my co-host Tracy, and we have a really important topic for a lot of you podcasters today. And Tracy's going to introduce the topic, but I want to set this up slightly because I meet with about 10 podcasters every day that are not working with us at Podetize. I'm either auditing their podcasts, which, by the way, those of you that want an audit, go to podetize.com/audit, and you can sign up to get one to learn what you may not know about your podcast that's probably holding you back from being found by more of your ideal listeners. But I want to share this because like I said, I meet with about 10 podcasters every day, and I can't tell you how many of them who've been podcasting for quite a while, 25, 50, 100 episodes or more, that are not following a best practice on this issue. So Tracy, take us to set this up for what we were going to share with our listeners today.
Yeah, we're going to talk about podcast landing pages and a landing page particularly. And when we say landing page here, we mean on your website. And I really want to clarify that this isn't like a funnel landing page. This is a website landing page for your podcast. And the reason we recommend this is because when someone finds your podcast, they might want to check it out. And when we create these landing pages for our clients on their websites, what we see happen is that they get about 60% of what you would consider to be outside traffic going in to find their podcast comes from Google, comes from search outside of the podcast listening apps. And when we don't see someone with this landing page, they don't get it. And that means they're leaving listeners, they're leaving potential organic traffic on the table that they are not getting into their show. You're missing out on subscribers because you don't have this page that someone can go to. And I wanted you to encourage it to call it like your podcast home base. That's what we're going to kind of call it here today. So it's technically a podcast landing page, but it's your podcast home base. And, it's a part of your main website,
which is a part of your total platform as a podcaster. You really need to think about it that way. If you have been thinking, yeah, I have a podcast and it's all within the podcast ecosystem, it's all within the listening apps, you're limiting your platform. You're holding your show back from being found by more listeners. It's shocking how many people I meet that are podcasting, putting a lot of effort into it, and all they're doing is posting to the listening apps. And yes, posting on social media, but then sending all that traffic to one of the listening apps like Apple or Spotify, right?
Right. And by having a podcast landing page, by having this home base for it, it allows you to send them to one place that you control. So you can see where they came from. If you have your Google Analytics set up, if you have tracking, you can use UTM codes. For those of you who are more sophisticated in your tracking links that you utilize, you're now trafficking them to your website where you can know who they are before they go out and hit the subscribe button and link on Apple. If you send them straight to Apple, you are giving Apple new members, right? And Apple isn't going to share that with you. So you just gave them people to go subscribe to your show. Hopefully they didn't get distracted and they actually do subscribe. But even still, you have no idea that they did that and that that's directly associated with the post that you may have put out somewhere. So that's why we use the podcast landing page. It's super simple. Now, if we're posting about an episode, we're going to use our blog pages that go with those. But if you don't have a blog, this podcast homepage is the best idea for you to utilize it in one place. And what I do want to be clear is this is not the podcast hosting page from your hosting service. So it's not a Libsyn page. It's not a Podbean page. It's not a Anchor page. It's none of those things. It is on your website.
Okay. So I want to do something here with all you listeners or maybe viewers out there on YouTube live right now or on, on LinkedIn watching this. I want you all to raise your hand if you have a landing page, but it's an Anchor landing page, or it's a Libsyn landing page, or a Podbean page. And it's okay to raise your hand because I can't see you doing it right now. This is a one-way communication. But if you're raising your hand or you're nodding, you're like sheepishly, yeah, that's me. Okay, wake up, people, because that is not serving you. In fact, you're allowing your podcast hosting platform to hijack your traffic from Apple, from Spotify, from all the listening apps, and bring it to their website. And it doesn't even matter if you've got a custom URL. There are some of them out there. Oh, well, I don't need a website. They're giving me one for free. They're doing me a favor. Actually, they're not doing you a favor. they're helping themselves at your expense.
And they're
Don't
giving
do
no
it.
value to you, to what you're doing there, because it sends them no information about you. It only gives them exactly what a listener already got from the listening app. It's a duplicate of it. So there is no additional information that really is about you at the end of the day.
And in fact, I have been in speaking with many listeners who are not podcasters, and I try to do that as much as I can. How do you listen, and what are you using? But these listeners, when you are using only having that landing page that's made available by your host, and as Tracy said, when it's really just a duplication of the same information that's in their favorite listening app, when they click that episode web page link in Apple, for example, and they are listening to you there, they leave the listening app and they're going to the landing page. It opens up even on their phone, that landing page in their browser, if it's Safari on an iPhone, or if you're listening with another app and you're on an Android phone, it's going to open Chrome on your phone and go to that landing page. And that has the same information that it did in the listening app that they were in. It annoys them. It frustrates them. You're providing no additional value. You just took them from a display of it on the listening app to a display of it on a web page in their browser. And it's like, why did I come here? What is this doing for me? Annoying your listeners is not recommended.
Well,
It's not going
and
to
if they're
help you.
taking the time to click through, they were interested in getting to you, not getting to Libsyn, not getting to SoundCloud, not getting to Anchor. They were interested in getting to you, and you didn't let that happen. So that's why we're such big proponents of what we call this podcast home base, this podcast landing page. And so today we really wanted to talk with you about what makes great components of it. But there's a couple of structural things that I want to note. This is not for someone who only has a podcast website. So you have an entire website that is for your podcast. I have the bingefactor.com. The homepage of that is my podcast page, right? So it's its own entity. The whole website's focused on the podcast only. This is different. This is if you have your podcast as a component of another website. It could be your speaker site. That's perfectly fine. It could be your business site. It could be some other type of site that you have. We highly recommend WordPress here. We've done, I don't know how many dozens of episodes about why that matters. But even if it's not, these rules still apply to what we're going to talk about. And that is that if it's a component of an existing website, you want a top menu item that says the word podcast, not the name of the show, says the word podcast. Now, when they click on it, they get the name of the show.
Why wouldn't I want the name of my show there, Tracy?
Well, because the name of your show isn't necessarily something that I know yet, right? So if I'm searching through your website and I see the term feed your brand, I don't know what that means. Like, it just sounds like a sales message. It could be a course. I have no idea. But if I'm looking for, I'm trying to understand who you are and what you do, and I've stumbled onto your website through some Google link or something, and I see the term podcast there, that's a sign I'm going to get free content that it's easy for me to consume, and it's something that I am going to want to check out. And that's why we use the term podcast. Plus, it's really consistent with how we navigate everybody else's site. It's like all of a sudden, not calling it a meet or an about page, like that confuses people too. We've gotten more, I'm going to say, systematized in how we create menu items to make it more accessible to your average viewer, listener, and someone coming to your site.
And it's really important what you just said, Tracy. And I want our listeners to really understand, you think about, well, yeah, I should use my name for that menu item, the name of my show. The difference is, the name of your show. Other people don't necessarily. So you've got to think about the context of an uninformed site visitor. And saying podcast is like, whoa, that gets their attention. Whereas if it's just a brand name of something, or the name of your show may not, and I'm not saying the name of your show and it says podcast at the end either. I mean, that would make too long a menu item.
Right. That's why we don't recommend that unless you have a really short name to your show. But we don't recommend that because it's just simpler with the word podcast up there for everyone to figure that out. Now, if you are making verbal announcements to it, it's great. So like we have feedyourbrand.co or thebingefactor.com, right? And it's going to forward to this page. You can always do that when you're on somebody else's show, when you're promoting it on a podcast or a video cast. So you can always have a forwarding URL that hits you on that particular page straight on your website that you announce that is easy, because otherwise you don't want to say podetize.com/podcast, you don't want to give somebody that long URL. You want to give them something to forward to. So, but that's when you verbally announce it places, right? And so you can create that. But this page is going to go under the top menu item podcast, and it's going to be this page that lets people learn about and find your podcast. And our goal here is to get people to actually click and listen to some of the podcasts while they're there, because the longer they spend on our website, the more site value we create over time as well. So this is one of the key components. The number one key component we want to have is somewhere on this page should be what we call an archive player, but it's basically a player with all your episodes in it, or a very decent sized subset of them if you don't have all of them on it, right? So it should be at least a minimum sample of at least a dozen.
Yeah. And you know what? It's not near as effective. And in my mind, doesn't count if you say, well, no, I have all these different pages on my site for each episode, and I have a track player for that episode within there. Well, that's great. Do that. But if you're making people take multiple clicks through your website, you've got a homepage, then click to the podcast page. When you're on there, you've got to click an individual episode link before you get to a place where you could actually play it. You're losing so many people with every click. You really want to reduce the number of steps it takes for people to try and play your episode. That's why we recommend this kind of a window player on the podcast page. Every episode is right there. The latest one's up top. Just click play. You want to look at an earlier one, people can scroll while they're listening to the latest one, read through the descriptions, and then click play on those if they want to.
Absolutely. So we have what we call the Showcaster Player. We're going to link to some episodes that we did on the Showcaster Player so you can understand, because there's all different kinds of ways to do this. So when we had our WTFFF podcast, we had so many volumes because we have 650 episodes. It's too overwhelming to put a single archive feed with 650 episodes. So we broke it up into volumes. We have the opportunity you could have your best episodes in the first tab of the Showcaster Player and just say, basically, start here. If you're new to the podcast, start here. And then you have your regular feed that follows in that place. So you have lots of options with that Showcaster Player, and it was built for this landing page idea. It also has some of the many things that we recommend in a player. So even if you're not going to choose ours, that's okay. Everybody has stylistic differences and things that they want to accomplish with their website look and feel and function. But what we recommend is that you need to have a way to link out to an email. You need a way to link out to subscribe links. You should have a search function, and you should also have, obviously, any way to play within it. And it should have the functions where anything that's a hot link or an HTML link, where you can have a URL in there, should be showing and displaying. Some of them are plain text only, and you get no ability to click any of the links that are in it. So those are the few things that we recommend. Anything I missed, Tom?
There are some social share opportunities within that
That's
that
a
are
good
there
point.
too. That makes it easy for people watching it there. They can click, Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever, and it'll open up that in a new tab on their browser. And obviously, if they're already logged in, then it just invites them to share about your podcast on that platform. I don't know how many people really use that, but that function is there.
Yeah.
And
that's really true. So at the top of the page, obviously, you're going to put the name of the show. You're going to have a picture of your cover art, that's nice and big, even though it's maybe small on the player, but you want to have that nice and big. So at the top, you remember we're under the podcast tab of our menu item. You're going to have the name of the show, the cover art, so they know they're in the right place. You can format it differently. It doesn't have to just be the square. You can make a rectangle version of it so it spans the top of your web page. You can do things like that. We like to have the description on that page. Now, I recommend putting the first paragraph of your description or the first couple of sentences of it above the archive player, and then maybe a read more and have the rest of it. But we do recommend somewhere on your website to use the entire 4,000 character description. And if you don't have a 4,000 character description, there's another Feature Brand episode where we really tell you why you have to have one. And so, that's another thing. But having that on that page is tremendous SEO, search engine optimization, for your website, so that everyone understands the value of this podcast, all the keywords associated with it. If you don't put it in that page somewhere, there's no way for that to get across to Google. So while we may not want everyone to have to see all of that language, because it's a lot of text on a page, we may want that opening paragraph, those first couple of sentences, and then you can hit read more, and it could drop down if they wanted to read it. But either way, whatever's below that line, below in the read more, Google will still read it. And so that's the important part of it. So we'd have a nice little short paragraph, then the player. And then below the player, we like to put really large, nice sized links to some of the popular apps. So you might go out to Apple and Spotify and Google Podcasts. You might have a couple of those. You might have an email where they could click and get on your email newsletter list. Just have some major links out to subscribe to the show. And so we would put subscribe here and, click to these things that they could go out to. So, don't have too many of them. 3 to 5 are fine.
Yeah, I think this can go too far. And you and I differ a little bit on this, Tracy. We don't always agree 100% on these things. I don't even like having them on that page personally, because I don't want to invite people to leave my webpage, and hopefully there's enough reason people are already playing an episode right there in the player. And it's only after they decided, yeah, I like this show, I want to subscribe, would they be going to those links. But there's more ways, more value people can get right there in your website from your podcast. But it is important to provide the links for those people that are new to listening to podcasts. You do want to be able to point them in the right direction, have them go to a link where they're going to find your show either on an app built into their phone, or maybe they've heard of an app. They probably don't have a favorite app if they're a new podcast listener. The reality is, if someone's listened to a lot of podcasts, they don't even need that link. They're just going to go to their favorite app and search for the name of your show now that they've been on your website and they've seen it. Right.
Yeah, we have some, heavy Apple users who are serious Overcast fans because the playlisting ability and some of the other things that you put into Overcast is just so much easier to use. And so they'll go straight to Overcast and they'll do it whether or not you list that. So it won't matter to them. They're going to go to their app. But I like to have it, and this is my reason for it. So I want to explain to you, because I told you we tell you why we do it. I like to have them nice and big on the bottom there, because the archive player on a mobile device can get small. So the subscribe links can be relatively small there, and so it's not as easy to do it. But we want to encourage them to follow you, right? We want them to get your episodes. And so whether they're sitting there playing them on the player and listening right at that moment, if they're clicking the subscribe link and then they subscribe out on Apple or Google Podcasts or Spotify, now your episodes are going to be pushed to them, reminding them to listen. So if they didn't listen on that page, now you've got a definite, distinct push reminder to them. So they're in your ecosystem. And that to me is like the important part of what we're trying to do. Is you're trying to capture their attention in some way, shape, or form and get them to listen to your content. So if it's not happening on the page, the next best thing is for them to click that subscribe link and get it pushed to their phone later. So that's why I like to have both at the same time. Now, I'm not a big fan of rate and review, but that would come next. But there are people who really want the rate and review. I think you haven't earned it yet. And so I'm not a big fan of having it, but so usually I'll put it in a kind of a section that says, if you love this show, please rate and review, right? And it's just got a link out to a page that is a whole rate and review that tells them how to do it, because it's complicated. It's not simple to rate and review a podcast. For those who are really sophisticated podcast listeners, they already know how to do it, and they'll just do it within the app, and they don't care for this piece.
Yeah, I agree with you on that, Tracy. I think it is important to have a rate and review page on your website after your show is out there, launched, syndicated everywhere, because, you want to take a couple of screenshots of it there, have step 1, 2, 3, here's how you do it. But it's really for that newbie listener, uninformed listener who doesn't have a lot of experience doing it. But where you put a link to that on your podcast page or on your website, I think there's a lot of different options, and
Yeah,
it's
I don't
more
like
of
to
a
put them up
personal
in a
choice.
top menu unless your
Yeah.
whole website
No.
is a podcast website. It's all
Right.
about the podcast. That's the only time that I would maybe put a rate and review page up at the top menu. So this page is the place to kind of put it in there and then link out to that page, but it's kind of a less easily navigatable page within your website. But we do it because if you run a rate and review campaign, you want to be able to like have a page at which you can send people to. So if they don't know how to do it, they go right there. So we do like to have them. But again, this is a choice. That's the one piece that's optional, but we do recommend some place to put it. And this is not a bad place. So you'd have, so now we had it, the branding of the podcast, a description paragraph, the player, the big subscribe links, including your email newsletter list or your email list, right? That needs to be one of those links. And then we have maybe the rate and review section. And then below that, you probably want to have some kind of, I'm going to call it like simple blog feed. So it might be the top episodes. It might be your most recent episodes. You don't want to have every blog and it just like keeps scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. Like you just want to have a sort of simplified feed because you probably already have a top level. And if you don't, you should have a top level blog section that's completely separate and that you can go and navigate to all of the podcast blogs or all of the show notes. Some people call it episode blogs, whatever you want to call them. They're navigatable through either the topic area or through some major blog page section, which is top level, like your podcast. And so you just really want to have it where essentially anything that you do here is going to link you into that section, but it's just enough to get an attractor in case someone doesn't want to use the player. And so it gives them like a bigger visual of the episode and some descriptive paragraph or something about it or information about the guest that's on the title of this episode. Just give them a sample in a much bigger way, but below everything. That's the bottom of the page. That's it. It's simple.
I actually like it when a podcast page lets me navigate to all the podcast blogs
Well,
from
some
down
of them
in that
do
area,
like
but
all of them
yeah.
here, and you just click the
right.
link of the title of the section.
I agree on the podcast page. I don't like it when it scrolls forever and every episode is there. That's information overload, and I don't think that's very helpful. But having 3, 5, or 6, depending on whether they're tiles or they're sort of in a list, having some there that update the latest ones always there, or like you said, your favorite ones, but having a button or a text link down at the bottom where you can, see older episodes or more episodes, something like that. So you can get that from there. That would be, I think, very useful and helpful. So that's sort of what I like to do, but definitely you got to have some on that page so that it's very clear, whoa, there's more content here.
And the other reason I don't like to have like a giant section of it, and I like to have this smaller section. So whether you do it like side by side carousel or just have like 3 to 5, like we were talking about, is that if you also then have a video channel or a video show, I like to put that below it at the bottom. So then there's the YouTube channel, and it might be actually that playlist of all of your episodes in the playlist. And so it's of course with the most recent on top. So the most recent is there. And so that's a great way to brand that video cast version of it. Now, you could swap the archive player and the video player if you're in a promotion period where you're trying to get more video watchers, but it's not, it's the podcast page, not the video page, right? And so like, keeping it below the blog is actually a great strategy for this moment. But again, another place where they're going to scroll down, they're going to go, oh yeah, I'm just going to watch the video. I'd like to see what they look like. I'd like to get a little more detail, or wow, that sounded really visual. Let me go down to the video player and play it.
Yeah. And the other thing I want people to understand, when you have your own episode landing page, your own podcast landing page, episode was incorrect. When you have your own podcast landing page, you can change it up over time. That when you just have a page that's from your hosting provider only, they have one way they do it, and that's it. Take it or leave it. You can adjust it. You can change it up. You find you get feedback, or you're just tired of it and you want to freshen it up, or like Tracy said, you want to emphasize video versus the audio. Lots of things you can do. And when you have your own, guess what? that's sort of one of the benefits.
Move it up
is-
and promote it
Yeah.
at the, it's just a little bit different messages, like, and that's the last thing I want to leave you with on the structure of this page is this is not the page to have a sidebar or sales messages mixed in. This is not the page for that. The blog pages can have a sidebar, which has your courses and your books and your programs. There should be no sales messages on this page. This is a content first page. So you do the full width, no sidebar, and don't mix in extra messages. It confuses things and it makes people think that your podcast is a sole vehicle to sell your book or a vehicle to only sell your programs and courses. And while that might be true, we don't need to make that so blatantly obvious that that's the only thing we care about by inserting sales messages onto this page.
A great point, Tracy. I agree. That is important. Don't confuse people. Get people to focus on you and your message to the world. Listen to your latest episode. Then they'll get more on other pages. That makes perfect sense.
So that's all I got.
Yeah, I think that covers it. I don't think we need to, belabor it or overemphasize it, but it's just really important. You need to have it. And again, I know a lot of you podcasters out there who are listening to this, who are not already working with us. You only have an anchor page for your show, or you only have a Libsyn page, and you think, no, so I've got my website covered. No, you really don't. You need a real website. And whether you're bootstrapping it, you're going to make it yourself, perfectly fine. Or, you want to get some support. Either way, you need it. It's in your best interest, in the interest of your show, being found by more listeners at the end of the day, but providing them some real value, additional value outside of the podcast listening apps. Can't emphasize this enough. You need it.
Absolutely. Well, let's drop the mic right there. So thanks everyone for listening to Feed Your Brand. I'm Tracy Hazard, along with my co-host here, Tom Hazard, and we will bring to you another interesting topic, deep dive into the tactics that are working in the podcasting industry.
We'll just go to the outro from there. I like that.
Awesome. Okay.
All right. Let's see.
Drink.
Welcome, those of you that are here live in the webinar. And for those of you who are out on LinkedIn or Facebook, not so easy for you to ask questions. You can, and you're a customer, join us on the webinar where we can.
And Cody's
So-
keeping an eye on you out there. So just
Oh,
say- yeah.
Kofi actually said, hey, from LinkedIn. He was just dropping by and saying hello. So
Oh, nice.
That's very
Hi,
nice.
Kofi.
Thanks, Kofi. Thanks for checking it out. Let's see. Anything? I'm glad you provided the link to Christine for the workshop. Yeah, Christine, any of the past ones, you can register for them and then you can watch the recording. So,
And then once
glad
the
you got that.
YouTube is completed for it, we replace that out. And so it'll link to the YouTube long-term for you.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Let's see. Now, obviously, that was a topic that, at least for our done for you customers, we've totally got it covered for you. Those of you that are more do-it-yourself podcasters, hopefully that provides some value to you.
But our team
Um,
asked us to do this topic, to be honest with you, Tom, because they are getting a lot of pushback and questions from
As to
website
why we
developers or
structure
like
the way we
team
do,
that they
yeah.
work with, not necessarily from our clients directly, but not understanding the why we built it the way that we do. And, remember, we've
Good.
done this over 1,000 times. So we've
Yeah.
seen what works and what doesn't. And so that's why we wanted to make sure that we did this also here on the call rather than recording it separately. And so
Good.
anyway, I just do want to, while we're waiting to see if anyone has any questions, want to make sure that you all know we're technically off next week, but we're trying something out and we'll let you know how it is. We're going to stream an episode that we pre-recorded on Wednesday of next week. Right. So that's what we're going to do. So it's going to use the whole streaming system, but Tom and I won't be recording it live.
Does
And
it
we're gonna-
actually go out through Zoom, or does it just go through
I think
Restream
it just
without
goes
Zoom?
through Restream.
Okay.
So we won't be
So,
here on Zoom
won't
next
be
week.
here,
That's what
yeah.
I'm trying to tell you, but there will be a live stream happening at noon Pacific time somewhere else out there.
Good. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks,
I
Kofi.
imagine Wednesday
Yeah, Wednesday, a lot of you might be
Wednesday
cooking.
before Thanksgiving. Oh, a lot of people are traveling, and it's just we just think it's not a very useful day to get a lot of people attending. But we're going to show up in some way, and actually, I think it'll be good that we can report the next week on
How it worked.
how many people tuned in, attended, whatever. So that's great.
Yeah. So if you aren't already friends with Tom and I on LinkedIn, if you're not already part of the Brandcasters Facebook group, if you don't follow us on Twitter, I think is it Podetize on Twitter, Cody? Which one is registered with Restream?
It's Tracy Hazard's Twitter account.
Oh, then it's
There
Has
you go.
Design. It's so old.
Yeah, it's at Has Design. Yep.
Yeah, with
Wow,
two Z's.
that's like the old brand. That shows you how inactive we are on Twitter, because it's just not our main place.
Well, no, see, and I've talked to the team about this. So like, this is kind of an interesting topic. Like, we've been sort of debating about what we're going to do with Twitter. And I mean, part of it is the conversation about what's going on at Twitter right now, right? And
Sure.
everything over there. But I had this Twitter so long because it was a requirement when I was an Inc. columnist for me to have one. And because my column was on design, that's why it was called Has Design. And because that's also the name of the business we used to have back then. So like, it was a combo of both when I started our Twitter accounts. And I have all my followers there. So when you start something new, it's harder to you can't get those followers to merge over. So one of the things is we don't actually have a at Podetize Twitter account. Is we can convert at Has Design to at Podetize. We can make a complete straight conversion.
And would all the followers still be there?
All the followers would still be there, but all the links out over everywhere on social media, on all of my Inc. column, like they would all be wrong. And that's what we can't get clarity from Twitter on, is whether if somebody typed in at Has Design, they would still find me. And
Boy,
or had a forwarding.
That presents a serious issue with social media
It does.
handles. That also presents an opportunity, I would think, for Twitter. They're looking for revenue streams right now. You just heard they've laid a bunch of people out. They're looking at charging for the blue check box. I mean, there's a lot of turmoil at Twitter.
Right. What if I could pay, $5 a month or something to make sure that both of them went to the same place?
It's really like a forwarding URL, but it's not a URL. It's a forwarding, what do they call the handle? It's a forwarding handle. At Podetize, boom, would send you to at Has Design, so you're going to get all.
Or
the
at
content.
Has Design forwards now to at Podetize.
Kevin Warren just did a search of
and
your
my name
and
comes
it
up.
came up, so that's good.
Yeah, it was a verified account. Then they took it down, and now I don't know what's going to happen with it. So like, am I going to get a gray check, a blue check?
It was a verified account. Did they eliminate all of them now that they're trying to get people to pay for them?
Yeah. So last I went into it last week, they took them all off. And then all those fake accounts happened on Twitter. And we saw that the Eli Lilly, the Coca-Cola, like all those fake accounts happened. And then they were supposed to put all the ones that used to have blue check marks back to gray check marks, but mine didn't have it, which was really weird. So like, it didn't reset everybody. Or if they are, it hasn't caught up to mine yet. And so I don't have the gray check mark like they claimed I would. And so I'm waiting to see what happens.
Well, I tell you, I know Elon Musk has his work cut out for him to try to.
I think he does.
So
I do want to mention
Twitter
here,
continue
and
to be relevant.
I'm going to tell the team, if you're listening to this, team members, take this section like a FAQ. So sometimes we'll put in a frequently asked questions. This is the answer to this. So there are many clients out there right now who have been questioning about what's going on with Twitter and are thinking about whether or not they don't want click to tweets, or we sometimes call it Better Click to Tweet, which is a plugin that is in the blog page for your website. And they don't know whether or not they just want to disconnect it altogether. And here's what I'm going to recommend to you right now. I'm going to recommend you don't mess with anything that was done in the past. Better Click to Tweet or Click to Tweet, any of those tweetables in your blog post is for someone who cares about Twitter to click out and use it for their Twitter. So even if you don't have one, it's for the readers of the blog to utilize. It's for those to be able to share it out themselves. And so we don't want to disconnect that because they have some interesting and great quotes. And until you decide, I don't want to support Twitter, if that's the decision that you make, and I want to move forward and change to something else, and we are searching for other quote plugins that would allow you to reset it for Instagram, reset it for Facebook, would set for other social media platforms to be able to still use the quote, but share it out in that way. We're looking for others that we can stand behind that we think is going to work really well and not be problematic for websites. So we will get an answer for you there. But in the meantime, don't undo it from what you did. Do not go into the back end of your website and disconnect those plugins. They are not connected to your Twitter. If you disconnect your Twitter, they're not for that purpose.
Right.
It's not going to
It's
matter.
not for you. It's really for your site visitor, right?
Right. And so I totally understand if you want to change your mind about using it going forward, but don't disconnect it in the past because you're actually breaking all your blogs. So every time there's one of those, you've just got blank that has no information in it. And it looks like a broken image. And that's all that's going to happen if you do that. So please do not do that. But if you would like to have a strategy, if you'd like to change your mind moving forward, absolutely meet with our team, go, make an appointment with Christine. That's the perfect person to go through and really discuss what you'd like to shift it to. And pretty much, and then by the time we come back from Thanksgiving, I will have an answer for you on what I'm going to recommend going forward. There are other options that you could switch to that are not a social media or quote plugin, but that immediately could drop in other relevant episodes and posts. It's really called relevant posts, and it immediately drops in things. So if our topic here was podcast landing pages, right? It might do the Showcaster player. It might do an episode or a blog that we did on websites, podcast websites, and it's going to drop them in to those same spots and break up the copy, but it's not giving you those great quotables. And so, but it's a temporary solution if you immediately want to just do away with connecting to Twitter. And that's a principled thing. I understand that. But don't disconnect it on the back end. Just don't do that right now. You're going to mess up all your blog archives, and that's going to be a lot of work on your end to fix that.
It would have a negative SEO implication to do that and have those broken links or that player that won't load properly. It's you probably would cause more damage than good. And I understand if some people on principle just don't want to support Twitter and Elon Musk. Okay, I get that. But again, to me, it's less for you. It's more for the site visitor. If they're wanting to post something on Twitter, they're going to do it one way or another. This just makes it easier for them to do it. So I don't know. I'm leaving it on mine.
Yeah. And that's just what I'm recommending here to all of you, is to look at it from that perspective, is like, let's not make rash decisions yet and break our site, because that would be detrimental to you.
Cool. That's it's good. We got that FAQ topic handled.
That's right.
What else is new and exciting in the industry?
Yeah, what else is going on? I know that I feel like there was something else, some other questions that we had for people, and we had a really great social media starter class last night. It was really quite good. We had those that are just starting out on their podcast and really looking at what their social strategy might be and where to start from and how to get that moving and going. And then also for some of you, that were there. So you might want to check that out. And Cody put it in the chat. And if you're just joining us, Cody, could you put that workshops back in the chat?
Yeah, of course.
The one that's coming up that I think might be most valuable is we do have our social media advanced program. And this is, I'm going to be going over like what happens if you want to promote a lot of episodes at once. So if you're launching with a bunch of episodes, but I'm also going to look at it from that same perspective, is how are you going to start balancing promoting older episodes, so evergreen episodes, and mixed in with promoting your new episode each week? How do you fit those together and not make it really overwhelming for yourself? And that is one of the topics that we're going to address.
I like that. And when we talk about that topic, are we going to address it in your podcast audio as well, not just the blog? Because I
No,
think
no, no,
when
no.
you
This
are
is social media only. That's my social
social
media
only.
advanced workout. We should do
Oh.
that as a separate. Yes,
We should do this as a
absolutely.
separate
I
one
was going to say
because
that's a good topic. Yeah.
I
Let's
do
add it
think
to the
it's
topic list,
useful
Cody.
when you know you're going to, well, if you know it in advance, and sometimes you might not, conversation with a guest might just go to a topic that's something you've covered in more in depth in another episode. When you're on the fly like that, it could be hard to refer to it. And you could say, hey, you know what? I have an episode where we took a deeper dive into that, and I'm going to make sure I link that in the blog post. And so you can at least let people know to go to the blog because they'll get that, even if you don't know what it is. But if you know in
Let's
advance you're going to do
temporarily
it, I
call it
think we should
cross episode promotion
cross promotion. Yeah.
in your
Mm.
audio, Cody,
Yeah,
just so
yeah.
that
Got
we
it.
we don't mess that up when we're trying to figure out when we talk about that. But that's a great topic, and we should definitely add that in
Yeah.
to
Some
to our
people are
topic
very
strategy.
good at it. Some people that have a lot of content are very good at planning and referencing. You're going to want to go to the episode titled this, or that's where people sometimes use episode numbers.
I think
although
numbers get dangerous
can
because
get
what happens when you
dicey
delete
when you delete one and it changes,
or
it
the
can
app
get
that they're
dicey.
using,
Yeah.
it doesn't have a number because some people aren't numbering them themselves. So
But
yeah, it
having
can
a
be.
good way in the episode description to link to it and or linking to it in the blog, I think is the best. But referencing other ones is fantastic, and it breathes new
it's-
life into them.
It does. I've been utilizing it in my show as well too, pointing people to the other episodes because if like they want to watch a movie that Shannon watched and blah 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 blah. And the team has done really good at making sure that that is linked in my blog post as well too. I didn't even have to add that to the edit notes. They
No, you
understood
don't.
what I
If
was
you
talking
if you're
about.
saying
Yeah, they'll
it, the
do
team
it.
will link it.
Yeah, it was
that's the
great.
nice thing about the done for you service. They're paying
Yeah.
attention to that
So
stuff.
anyway, we have this social media advanced class, which is the week after Thanksgiving, right? Or is December?
Yeah, it is. It's the 29th. It is
Yep.
the Tuesday we're
29th,
back. Yeah.
Yep. And then on the next week after that, we are going to, and Tom is going to join me for the first one. On December 6th, we're going to do our ad and promotion strategy class. And this might be something.
Monetization. Yeah.
Yeah, if you've, especially if you've been podcasting most of the year, you're 25 episodes or more, and you haven't thought about what you might be doing in terms of promotion. And I don't want you to think about ads and like outside advertisers. They could be your own ads for your own stuff, your own events, your own books. So that's why we say ad or promotion strategy, right? It might be time for you to consider this and just hear what we have to say in this workshop and think about, is it time for me to add this in the mix to my show? Have I earned the right to start to promote things in a more, I'm going to say, systematic way instead of that more organic way where you just mention your class, your course, your boot camps on the air? And so that one's coming up, and those will be the last two workshops we do for the year. And then Cody will have a tech check in both December and January. And I want to make sure if you guys get new equipment for the holidays, there's someone who, bought you some wonderful new equipment and you need a little help hooking it up, Cody is here for you. And he'd be happy to either jump on a call one-on-one or join one of these open office hours he has for you to do a quick tech check.
That's a really good point, Tracy, is to really, we should poll our customers after New Year's. Maybe it's an email, maybe it's also some social
poll.
shout outs. Hey guys, any of you that got some new equipment from Christmas, it might be a new lighting kit, it might be a new webcam or a video camera, it might be a microphone, it might be a recording device, a mixing board, who knows what people got. We should sort of poll them, what did you get? And then we can address that.
Yeah.
In an upcoming episode.
I'm gonna have
in a session, a tech session, and try to provide some support.
I'm going to have the social team run a poll in the Brandcasters group, and we'll test it out there, and we'll run it on the other social channels as well.
Great.
But let's run a poll after the holiday, and we'll see what everybody got. And
Yeah,
then if you didn't get it, like this also could be your hot list because January is actually the best month to buy electronic equipment. And people maybe don't know that, but Tom and I do. You want to buy TVs, you want to buy any sound equipment, you want to buy stuff. January is the best time because they have lots of overstock from the holidays that they like to get rid of because that's expensive shelf space, if you want to consider it that way, right? And also because they, as leading up to Super Bowl and some of those other things, these things are like big promotions. And so if they're getting that right kind of buyer, they want to not only sell them TVs, they want to sell them sound equipment, and like they want to sell all of it at once. And so they try to create bigger sales around that area in January.
That is very true. It's a good point. I always remember
best deals you'll have are in January, not
I always remember, I think it was nationwide. Of course, I grew up in New England, and they were big there, but I think it was nationwide with Sears stores. Remember when Sears back in the day was where you would go to buy, we used to buy all of our washer, dryers, appliances,
refrigerators,
stoves, but also televisions and certain kinds of what were modern electronics at the time. Even I remember when they sold computers, and I always remember right on December 26th, running through into January, I can still hear the jingle in my head where they said almost everything you wanted but didn't get for Christmas is on sale now at Sears. And I'm not going to sing it because I'm not going to give you that pain of having me sing the jingle. But it was huge, and always used to be that stuff that they didn't move would be on sale because they got to get ready for the next year's stuff. Right. And I think that still happens. I think Best Buy does some of that. And I don't know about online shopping these days, but whatever few stores still carry stuff like that. So
yeah, absolutely. So, okay. Well, I think we're getting close to the end of time, end of our time today, not the end of time all together. Like that was really kind of a misstatement. Yeah. Like, God, we've had enough of almost feeling like that. So definitely don't feel like that today, but want to make sure if you have any questions, let us know.
Shout out to Wayne King. Thanks for joining us today. Always good to have you here. Let us know if there's anything we can do to support you. We had some other people here live who have left by now. I can't see who's on social with this new system. I never know. Cody knows.
I do know. We got some eyes, but I think that it's a little dark here. Kofi did had to leave as well too. It looked like that was our only interaction comment wise.
Did we try that? Did you try the event yet?
Not yet. No.
Okay.
I wanted to link it with my LinkedIn and all of that stuff. We'll get this event set up for the 30th.
Okay. And I think you can share somebody else's event and make it an event.
Sure.
Absolutely think you can do that, even if it's not, even if you can't hook it up via Restream.
Got it.
So right, I think there's got to be a way for us to do it. Maybe we can try it for next week's, recorded one, because that really is like a running event. So we could try it for that. Yeah. We're experimenting with the Restream, the LinkedIn events. We're experimenting with some things for you. And then in January, we plan to really report on how this was working for us, what it's going on. And especially because my brand new show, and as many of you know, if you've been a client for a long time, we start a brand new show every single year. So starting in January, we're going to be starting a live stream first show that is all about the new Pod Lister. So that's the other announcement that we want to make is don't forget.
It's not just about Pod Lister though. It's about like current pod news and dishing on the industry and all sorts of stuff, right? I mean,
but it's all coming off of information from Pod Lister. And so, so it's going to talk about what's trending, who's growing in the charts, what charts are doing better, like is our real estate doing better than personal development or health and wellness. So we're going to be really looking at those, and so it's a combination. The live stream show is a combination of Mad Money and entertainment tonight.
That's what I wanted you to tell people, because I think saying it's about Pod Lister, people won't understand that. I like this.
Speaking of Pod Lister, I am dropping into the chat. Cody, you can add it to Restream or to however you get it out everywhere else.
Of course.
Bahatize,
we're having a preview event
tomorrow.
Yeah.
And everyone should be getting an email shortly with the details for it. But all that is the Zoom registration to attend the preview event. So we're going to preview Pod Lister to our community,
which is our new app. So you can learn all about it and what is special about it and why you should care. If you have time, come to the preview event. Now, if they register for it and they can't be there live, do they get to see the video?
Sorry.
No,
Nope.
live
We're not
only.
saving any. Yeah. Because this
Whoa.
is proprietary information and you're getting a sneak peek before it really goes live. We're really just recording it for our purposes to use clips on social media and other things like that, but
Uh-huh.
also just wanted to give our clients a sneak peek and our investors. And so we already have 22 people signed up from the investor list from Republic.
Really?
And yep. And we have 2 from our Flippa list so far signed up as well.
Wow. Great.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Sign
And
ups.
and we have a few people from Saturday's event who signed up
Oh yeah, we do.
because we
Yeah,
did
that's
open it
right.
up and offer it there.
Mhm, mhm. For the local event, the
Yep.
Golden State Meetup. Cool. Okay.
Yeah, there you
Wonderful.
go.
Well, I think that's a wrap for what will really be our last live one of these in November,
Yeah. Woohoo.
since next week is a pre-recorded.
Yep, that's right.
All right.
Speaking of, we got to sit down and record it.
Oh, we haven't done that yet. Now you're telling me we have more work to do. Okay, thank you. That's good to know.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not gonna count on the fact that it will be pre-recorded then. Knowing you and me, we could get so busy we have to do it live.
We can't because I'm not planning to bring our equipment with us on our trip.
Oh, all right. Well, all right. I guess we're doing it.
Okay, everyone, take care. Have a great Thanksgiving because we won't talk to you live then, but enjoy that time and we'll be back soon with another episode.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.